All right, Ekta, a quiet day of trade, but we do have a bunch of things that we call out for you and add value. This is our special segment, Value Add. We're focusing on Metropolis as India logs a single-day rise of 2151 COVID cases. Ekta, that's the highest in the last 5 months, but are people actually going to these path labs?
Well, we had an interesting conversation with Ameera Shah of Metropolis earlier in the morning, where a couple of important points is that they have mentioned that when it comes to COVID cases and COVID testing, RT-PCR testing, they did only around 8 odd crores in terms of total revenue from it. And that's been the range in the past couple of quarters for them. And for most companies, COVID testing was down 80%, 90% on a year-on-year basis. That's because the consumer behavior has changed last year when it came to COVID-19. So they don't see PCR cases increasing at this point in time, RT-PCR testing at this point increasing, because most people want to get tested at home. They want to see if they are COVID positive, negative, and then sort of deal with it in their homes without, the regulatories, authorities probably getting involved to a certain extent. So they don't see COVID-19 playing an important role going forward. On competition, she said that, last year there was a lot of negative perception of competition coming in with regards to aggregators, etc. But there are two types of testing. One is wellness testing, which is basically your diabetes and your CBCs of the world, where that is possibly seeing disruption when it comes to pricing. But it's not really a lot of pricing pressure when it comes to illnesses. Yeah. So illnesses is basically something which is more specialized, and that's probably where Metropolis has more of revenues coming in, and hence they don't see pricing pressure coming in from that particular segment. Margins of the company was impacted due to the expansion of labs and not really with regards to the pricing pressure. The fundamentals of the business are strong as per the company and at pre-COVID levels. Inorganic growth, they saw unsustainable prices in the diagnostic industry due to COVID-19. We saw a huge amount of M&A taking place during that time, and now that seems to have settled. They probably won't see those kind of valuations coming back. So that's basically Metropolis. But to take this conversation forward, we have Rahul Guha, who's the MD and CEO of Thyrocare, now joining in to discuss all this and more. Rahul, hi, welcome back to the show. We had spoken a couple of weeks ago, so I'm going to keep that whole pricing discussion for later. Wanted to start with COVID-19 testing and what your experience has been. Are you seeing any sort of pickup in RT-PCR testing?
A small pickup, Ekta, but it is on a very small base. So, even if I go back 4 or 5 months, it's nothing close to what we used to see earlier. Though there has been a pickup in the last 10 days or so. Overall, that's the story. But as I said, it's off a very, very small base.
Can you quantify this pickup that you're talking about?
It's on a very small base, but it's like 35-40%, if I look at the weekly trending average.
Okay, so that's the point that even Ameera Shah was making, that, people are just not testing. They don't do the RT-PCR test. They may have gotten COVID, but they're dealing with it at home, doing the home test, etc. So let's move on then. Rahul, good afternoon. One other point she was making is that last year, the narrative was that the diagnostic space is seeing a lot of competition and there's a lot of pricing pressure. But actually, when you drill it down and you look at the numbers, the pricing pressure was not so much, especially for industry leaders. Is that what you feel as well, that, in spaces like illness testing, etc., there's not too much pricing pressure at the moment? And for your own business particularly, what do you see as the growth going forward?
Sure. Actually, I fully agree with that point. The pricing noise has not really, landed in terms of lower prices for us or for any of our competition. Our price realizations have kind of been the same, I would say, almost the last 4 quarters. Of course, Thyrocare has always been a lower cost testing provider. And so therefore, we have been less impacted, with all the price competition. But overall, I would say, the pricing noise was a bit of a storm in a teacup, I would say. But, and it's not really kind of flown through in the numbers. That being said, I do see, because of the COVID testing and, the awareness about RT-PCR and all of that, actually, we are seeing a lot of people now who never would test for influenza. And particularly now on our H3N2 panels and all of that, actually, we are seeing quite a bit of traction on those. So I think the consumer, while they've understood, viral diseases and because of COVID, that there is some testing around that, but we're seeing actually good pickup on, some of these more viral test markers, including influenza, and that's been doing quite well over the last, I would say, month or so.
So the reason I asked you about pricing pressure is because, there is a lot of competition, right, in this space, especially in the e-commerce space, and B, your own margins have been under a lot of pressure. I mean, there was a time when you used to enjoy 30% plus margins, and now that's dwindled down to about 20% or so. I take it that there are industry dynamics at play as well, but can you tell us, since you're saying that there's not too much pricing pressure, what could the average margin performance be for the company in the quarters to come?
So we've always been guiding to about 30%. Actually, if you take the net one-offs, which is, the ESOP charges and all of that, our normal operating margin is in the 30% range, and we expect that to continue into next year as well.
All right. Take that point. Rahul, you actually preempted my question with regards to the jump that you've seen in influenza testing, etc., because of the prevalence of H2N3 now. How much would that be as a proportion of overall testing for you right now? That's point number one. And secondly, now that people are aware of all these issues, they're also looking at, wellness tests, specialized tests, etc., something that is preventive. What could that be as a proportion of sales for you?
So our preventive has always been about 40 to 45% of our overall business. The influenza business is very small. So, I'll not quantify it in terms of numbers, but just to give you a sense of the ramp up, I think week on week, it almost doubles, so as people get more and more awareness around when we had this viral infection wave during the change of season over the last couple of months or so, many people came in and started to do fever panels and influenza panels to, check if they really understand what is going on with their body and their sickness. So that's an encouraging trend overall.
Okay. Rahul, is it just a matter of time till pricing pressure picks up within the specialized testing space? Because aggregators have entered the wellness market or the more routine test market, but they are going gung-ho when it comes to investments as well. So the next leg of investments, I would assume, would be specialized testing. Do you think that that would be the next leg of competition, and it's just a matter of time till pricing pressure weighs in there?
See, wellness is more direct to consumer, so therefore, it's a lot more amenable to price pressures and all of that. And as you compare different packages online versus offline, you may say, okay, for my annual checkup, I'm okay to save a few rupees and actually get it done with an offer. But when you're sick, you really want to ensure that you have the right test. And as the degree of sickness, kind of becomes much more, right? Or when it is a more severe disease, I think very few people are willing to, save a few rupees, but not be sure about the reliability of the test. So I think having been in the market for many, many years, having talked to doctors, having been able to explain to doctors the results, the accuracy, and the procedures that you have followed, is much more important than 100, 200 rupee or even a 30% reduction in price.
No,
so I think I think the specialized market is not the same ball game as a direct to consumer wellness market.
But what I mean is that eventually there will be investments within that space as well. But just before we finish up this conversation, Rahul, just wanted to understand that, you're a part of PharmEasy, and PharmEasy is an aggregator. And the aggregator model has deep discounting when it comes to the entire diagnostic testing space. So what does your full body checkup cost at this point in time? What does it compare in terms of a discount to the other aggregators?
So our highest running full body checkup is what is called comprehensive with vitamin D and B12. That runs at about 1,500 rupees. I would say it was, we typically give about a 400 rupee discount. So I would say it's about 25% discounting that we do against that. I think that's kind of in line with everybody else on the aggregator side. And actually, if I compare it to Thyrocare, also our best-selling package offline is in that same range as well.
Okay, all right, we will leave it at that. Rahul, thanks a lot for joining in and speaking to CNBC-TV18. Appreciate your thoughts on the subject matter at hand as well as on the company too. That's